Maybe y'all saw the news out of Nebraska today. Our state has, in fact, gone bankrupt. Due to his tariffs and the loss of all of our migrant farm workers, our state has lost over $500 million. It's so bad that Governor Pillen had to call and ask him for a bailout, and we don't know if he's going to give it to us. My husband and I did used to own a farm here in Nebraska, and thanks to the loss of all the workers, we went bankrupt, and bankruptcies in our state overall are at a record high right now. It's still just so weird to me because we all voted red. Nebraska, every county, every district overwhelmingly voted red, and that seems to have been the reason that we're all out of business now. And that just doesn't make that much sense to me. If you vote for a party, shouldn't they protect you? Shouldn't they pass policies that will help you stay out of bankruptcy? And it's not just the farms, but the whole state is going under because we voted red. When you're a farming family like mine, I can see now that it is important to think before you vote.
Nebraska's biggest part of their economy at GDP is farming.
Right.
And they said 45 to 65% of the workforce is undocumented.
45 to 65%?
Yes. So,
oh, shit.
with Trump rounding up illegals, what have those illegal immigrants done? They jump ship. They don't want to get raided while they're working. They don't want they don't want to get families broken up. So now, so they predicted that Nebraska is 2/4 away from being bankrupt. The whole state, because there's no workers. Half of their workforce is undocumented immigrants. So now Nebraska is in a panic, is in an uproar. And most of them, farmers are Trump supporters. They got exactly what they voted for. If all these illegals were taking your jobs, why don't you go fill and do the shitty jobs they were doing for less than minimum wage? If these illegal immigrants were taking your jobs. There's all these jobs available. You can do it. To work slave hours at slave wages, you can do it. They literally bit their nose and spite their face. Like, they directly voted to deport the illegals, and now the illegals, they didn't even wait for deportation. They working somewhere else. I hope they don't want any government handouts, because that's socialism. They hate socialism. Hope they don't want any government handouts. Put yourselves up by your bootstraps. What's going to end up happening is these corporations are going to come buy your farm, and you going to work that farm. And you're going to be working for the corporations. They're going to buy it for pennies on a dollar, and you're going to be working your farm, and you're not going to own it no more.
I'm so excited for everyone to call me a bad person again in my comments, but guess what? I do not care about Nebraska going bankrupt in 6 months. I do not care. I do not care. Maybe a few other of those red states should go bankrupt in 6 months so the blue states can swoop in to save them, so they can understand that we are not the bad ones. We are not the poor ones. We are not the ones who cannot survive under the orange turds' crazy policies. But you know why I don't feel bad for Nebraska? You know why? Because I believe I heard 65% of their workforce is undocumented people, which means they're not coming to work anymore, which means work's not happening, which means all the farmers in Nebraska are going to go bankrupt because they all went out there and voted against their neighbors. 65% of neighbors who are immigrants, okay? Fuck around and find out at this point. You know what I mean? And of course, I do feel bad for those blue people in Nebraska who did not vote for this. So unfortunate. That's what you get for being racist and not wanting immigrants in this country, even though they're paying taxes and contributing. So,
hey, it's Joe from Georgia. While nobody's been paying attention, this is what's going on in Nebraska. And we talked about bankruptcies in Nebraska. Well, the Hansen-Mueller Corporation, which is a grain company there, it's what it does. It's a huge giant there in Nebraska, the Hansen-Mueller Company. They filed for bankruptcy back on November the 17th with Chapter 11. Well, what this did, and the reason they ended up where they did, is because starting in August, they weren't paying people money. The farmers who had used their grain to fund this company didn't get paid for it. This went on for a couple of months. The Hansen-Mueller Company their license was suspended, and then it was reinstated there by the Public Service Commission in Nebraska the first week of November, and then they filed for bankruptcy. Well, $500 million is what's at stake, and you've got about 5,000 creditors, and most of them are farmers small farmers, or a lot of them, and they haven't been getting paid. So, and why did this happen? Tariffs. Because of the tariffs, and they're not able to move the grain at a price where it's profitable, and the way the company had set their operation up, they lost a ton of money and was unable to pay the producers of the grain in Nebraska. So once again, tariffs, bankruptcy, and farmers are going hand in hand, and Nebraska is paying the price.
Whoa! Wow! Nebraska unemployment claims spike 177% following Tyson Foods beef plant layoffs. Yeah. So Nebraska, I'm just asking. How did the whole voting for Trump thing work out? Yeah, we tried to tell you. We tried to warn you. And now look where you're at. But the sad part is, the really sad part about all of this is that when elections come up, you're still going to vote for Republicans because that's what you do. And you keep doing really poorly. I mean, Nebraska, really poor, bad state. I mean, you guys have been struggling for decades. And you keep voting Republican. I don't know. Maybe try something different? Just a wild suggestion. Just a crazy wild suggestion. Oh boy.
Someone please go check on Nebraska. Do you guys know what's going on over there? And if you don't know what's going on, that's why you have me, so I can explain it to you. But básicamente, Nebraska is about to go bankrupt in 6 months. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to smile. It's just a little ironic because majority of Nebraska voted for you-know-who, el pendejo, right? Majority of Nebraska is like, does anybody care about us? Like, we're about to go bankrupt in 6 months. And the reason why they're about to go bankrupt is because the majority of the workforce in Nebraska is built off, who do you think? The back to Latinos, right? That are undocumented. And they're scared to go to work. And they're not giving any money to the farmers. So their agriculture is dead. They're like, who cares? Like, can somebody come and help us? No, mijo. I have no pity for you. Sorry.
Nebraska going into bankruptcy because of self-inflicted damage. They were team firing over here, saying, you know what, everybody pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Our ideology is nobody should get anything that they don't deserve. Now they want a bailout. They're asking for socialism. Socialism bad until I need socialism. Get the fuck out of here, dude.
Not the Nebraska farmers going bankrupt by voting for Donald Trump. Like, I don't give a shit. You guys voted for it. Fucking take the consequences. Fuck you guys.
So the news out of Nebraska just keeps getting worse every day. I got a lot of responses to my video yesterday about how all the farmers are going bankrupt and how Governor Pillen requested for a bailout for our state. Well, it ends up that they're not going to grant the bailout to help us. So after we all voted red and elected all these people, they're not going to do anything to help us. And I learned a lot yesterday from all the comments on my video. It seems like a lot of the blue states, especially California, are actually the ones subsidizing and keeping some of us red states alive that are falling by the wayside. Which is weird because I've always heard bad things about California, but yeah, it turns out that they have an $80 billion surplus every year that they pay into the United States, and all of us welfare states like Nebraska actually benefit from California doing so well. And you know, they're just a blue state. They're just solid blue. And they do better than all of the other states, especially Nebraska. So I'm starting to rethink everything I've been told in my life.
Nebraska needs American farm workers. Where you at? Show up in Nebraska. Nebraska farms need farm workers. Immigrants are gone.
Nebraskans are pissed. Bigly. Askins. The Askins are pissed. Nebraskans. No one wants to hear Farmer John with his butt crack showing, married to a Karen, complaining about losing your little farm when you voted for me. They don't feel sorry for you. And I don't need your votes anymore, so I don't care. Bigly. Nebraskans, what did you think was gonna happen? If all your workers were Mexicans and we got rid of all the Mexicans, who's gonna be your workers? Guess what? You can take a page from the book of the Native Americans, followed by the African Americans, Chinese Americans, Indian Americans. Listen, what we're gonna do is crash the economy so all the rich people can buy up everything for super dirt cheap, including your land, Nebraska farmer dude. I don't know. And once we buy it for dirt cheap, we will hire you to work on said land. Hello, this is a tale as old as time. We've done it so many times before. And the fact that you thought you were exempt is absolutely hilarious. Bigly, it's funny because you guys are really effing around and finding out. Decided to put a little pause on the tariff situation. Canada had a problem and we came in and helped them solve it. They had a problem that there were tariffs that they could not pay. And I said, I will be your savior. I will take the tariffs away. You're welcome. Thank you. Nebraska, I've actually sold Nebraska to Vladimir Putin. And we know I like to say Putin. That's my friend. In exchange for 2 new mail order brides that should be here by Thursday. One of them's gonna come with me into my forever cryo chamber where I will live in infamy and be the president of the United States for the rest of existence and time. Bigly. We're doing very well with Russia. Russia's really enjoying us and we're really enjoying Russia, and they're bombing the hell out of Ukraine right now. And I don't like the Ukraine guy because that guy is tan and he's kind of sexy. I'm not gonna lie, and I don't like that about him. Vladimir Putin is much more pale. He makes me look shiny and orange. And that's the kind of leadership that I really look up to. Bigly, I do. We're having a good time. Everyone's having a good time this pregnancy, and you guys keep trying to come and interfere with your world news and your disasters. We like a good disaster. It's good for the millionaires and billionaires because we can buy up everything dirt cheap, including labor, including you. We need a workforce. Too many of you farmers want to own your own land with government subsidies. Not anymore. You got what you voted for. Bigly, you got what you voted for.
It's Joe from Georgia. So we're getting ready for the first domino to fall, and we know what happens after the first one falls. Well, the state of Nebraska, the governor, Jim Pillen, has asked the federal government for help because they're not going to be able to pay their bills this year. And here's the problem in Nebraska. They had over a $2 billion contract with the Chinese government to export soybeans to China. Well, out of that $2 billion, they've canceled all the contracts. So out of that $2 billion, $350 million was state revenue taxes. They're not getting any of that. And the governor also goes on to say that because the migrant farmers weren't able to work in Nebraska this summer, that those people didn't pay their taxes either. And the farmers who already have crops in the ground, folks, they've already spent their money. They're going to need help too because they're not getting any money from the contracts anymore. So Nebraska is the first state. And when you look at the Midwest, you're probably looking at Kansas, you're looking at Iowa, South Dakota, all of those places that are large exporters of grains to China and depend on migrant farm labor. They're not going to be able to pay their bills either. So here's the first one to fall. But